Well, as you no doubt know, Tesla had a fantastic day today, and I'm of course on record saying that we're going to get to 265 prior to 1010, absent any crazy news that can always come along. Now, in the past, people have said, "Well, Randy, you said," and then there's always that crazy news. We have to take that into consideration. Anyway, if we get somewhere really close to no interventions, like we're starting to see videos all the time that say, I haven't had an intervention in weeks. And I just was watching I was watching a video just like that, where the individual had gone 2 weeks without an intervention, had one today. But anyway, we could be going higher than 265 prior to the 1010 date. I think between now and 1010, you're going to have hundreds of thousands of cars moving around parking lots without drivers because they're going to be using their new ASS system. That should have a halo effect. People asking about it, people getting rides, people watching it, newspapers reporting on it, et cetera, et cetera. All of that, I think, will be impacting the sales of the vehicles between now and then, but also creating a lot of publicity. Now, it wouldn't take much of a bump in U.S. sales, even in the month of, right now in September, to start to get people excited outside of the whole, business of 1010 and or other things that are on the list of possible catalysts. We could also get news out of China with regard to FSD, whether that's going to be approved. Europe, of course, we could get approvals there. We could also get a licensee from China or from the United States on or before 1010. All of those things could have an impact that would drive us well above the 265 level. Now, there's things that can go wrong as well. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely, misses with regard to the numbers on October 2nd. That could be a big miss prior to the 1010 show. And there's other things like that that could definitely impact the stock and keep it from hitting the 265 that I'm saying we'll get to. Anyway, however, assuming no big news and that, that either in the macro or in Tesla in either direction, good or bad, we should start moving towards that number pretty soon. Today was probably the beginning of that because there was no other news. I looked at Barron's, I looked at some of the other ones who were making commentary on Tesla, and they were like, well, it was probably this or probably that. It's so completely wrong. Anyway, to me, it's the beginning of FOMO. And we'll have fits and starts. It's not going to be like right to 265. It'll be up. People take some profits. It'll be down. But that's where I think we're going to be going. Well, you may have heard earlier today, I did this interview with Scott Walter, and we discussed the robot from 1X. And also their intention is to start with at least 100 robots in homes later this year. So they will be placing on some kind of a beta program. They're going to be placing 100 at least robots in homes this year. Okay. In homes with all the logistics, all the requirements of moving around furniture and all the rest around kids, around dogs. I mean, I don't know. They're going to put them in places where they're going to have those kind of obstacles. I don't know. They're also expecting to ship 100,000 bots in 2027. Agility is saying that they will begin manufacturing later this year, and they plan to get to 10,000 per year when they are fully ramped. And I think they're thinking that might also be 2027. Figure has stated they'll reach and they'll begin planning production and shipping in 2025. And Elon says that he'll make thousands next year, 1,000 or more, but maybe thousands in 2025, and then start shipping in 2026. Now, in these other companies, if they're talking about they're going to do 10,000 or 100,000, I think it's perfectly reasonable to think about upwards of 100,000 or more for Tesla in 2026, assuming everything goes well. And I can't imagine that it doesn't. And then maybe 500,000 in 2027, or maybe even up to 1 million in 2027. Again, maybe you've heard me say this before, but why wouldn't they, once they've got the product right, why wouldn't they be able to ramp it faster than they would an automobile? And so they could easily be talking about 700,000 in 2026 and 1.5 million or 2 million in 2027. So these numbers are not crazy. So one of the interesting aspects about this entire product line, this entire idea, this entire future in humanoid robotics, is that we've never ever seen anything like this that has a virtually unlimited TAM for decades to come, no matter how many players are in the business. Now, typically, that would create an NVIDIA kind of situation where you can make crazy margins. I mean, 75, 80, 85% margins, as even if there is competition, the combination of all players can't fill the market's needs. And so if you sit back and you just analyze it from a business perspective, why would any of these robot companies be offering these products for sale? They should all be offering them for lease. They should, if they're going to sell them, they should be offering them for like $100,000, $200,000. It makes no sense, but many of them are already coming out and saying, look, these are going to sell for, $25, $30, $35, $50, $60,000. And some are already being sold in those price categories, price areas. Why would they do that? Now, I understand the home robot, you might think, well, people can't make the justification for that expense. But are you kidding me? How many people, how many people would pay $100,000 to have that robot to show off to their friends? So why would they sell it for less? I can't figure it out. So these other players haven't gotten the memo because Elon has said, look, yeah, we'll probably just lease them in the beginning. And so, I've been figuring everybody pretty much that has been making these analyses, Cern and Dr. Scott Walter and others that have taken a look at this, we all kind of come out with the same number where we think it'll be around 60,000, 50 to 60,000 of profit per year on each bot that gets moved into industry. And I still think that's the smart move. But I'm getting a little worried now with all these people coming out with these these ones at lower costs, even though the dam will be unlimited. And so therefore Tesla might be able to charge whatever they want and theoretically could. Maybe they'll feel bad doing that. But then the other side of that whole coin is if the value is there, then the middlemen will get involved. So maybe it'll drive up these other guys that are saying they're going to charge 30 or 50 or 60, maybe these other guys will finally get the memo and they'll raise their prices. But I thought, what if really it's only 20,000 a year? I mean, 20,000 per unit. Maybe Tesla does have to sell them for 30,000 and make them for 10, or maybe they sell them for 20,000 and make them for 10, or, maybe the profit's only around 10,000 each. But if you get to, 10 million units a year, you're still talking a $200 billion profit if you make 20,000 each, or, if you can get to, 50 million units per year, which is not a ton, at 5, even if you're only making 5,000, that's 250 billion in profit. So I think, the numbers are still massive and it's all going to be exciting, but it's going to be really interesting from a business, like a MBA program perspective to see how does this pricing work out. But maybe there's even a bigger question. We're seeing some really sophisticated bots and the production plans are not that far away. Where is the FOMO on the robotics? These other companies are mostly not publicly traded. There's no way to get invested. And so why aren't retail traders, why aren't even some of the institutionals going, I need to have a piece of this? It seems to me that the price of Tesla stock is really on the precipice of doing something huge. In other news in the auto space, we've got Volvo giving up on their effort to be fully electric by 2030, one after another. Volkswagen and Ford and Chevy and everybody, these guys are all bailing on the BEV business. And that just makes a greater opportunity for Tesla as their product gets stronger and stronger, less and less expensive, more and more profitable. Adding the full automated driving, full self-driving, just makes it even that much of a big deal. Anyway, this is Randy Kirk, by the way. I know at night I don't usually introduce myself because I usually have a guest. Where is that Jeff Lutz guy anyway? Well, he couldn't make it tonight. Thank you, Jeff, for being here almost every Wednesday night. Okay, what else do we got here? We have a big thing happening. You know what the GDP is. Everybody knows what the gross domestic product was. You've got the gross domestic product. You've got the gross domestic income. Now there's, those are two different numbers. And one of those numbers includes everything, everybody that gets an income from anything. And the other one is actually just the amount of product that moves across the shelf, so to speak. Well, usually they're really, really close. Now, it may take the GDI a little while to catch up to the GDP at times, and they might break apart and then go back together again. But typically, over the last 25 years, they're really, really close. But right now, the GDP and the GDI are the furthest apart they have been for 25 years. And that's only as far as I went back. And the difference is actually about 3%. And the current GDP is up 3%. The second quarter is up 3%. And so this difference is 3%. And so that might be one more reason to believe that I'm right and that we're already in recession. Well, there's lots of other reasons to believe that. I can tell you that for sure. Some of the numbers that have been coming out would also, tend to say so. And I also believe that the market, as you know, I believe the market is way too stretched. And I think it has to bounce down 10% before it can move higher. We have, a big jobs number coming out in 2 days. They're coming out on Friday, but got a lot of stuff coming out tomorrow with the regular Thursday jobs report. We've got the initial unemployment number. You've got the ADP number coming out tomorrow. You've got, there's I think services, the S&P services number coming out tomorrow. All these different things coming out tomorrow. The folks who are playing the market, the people, the institutions, everybody else, they're really watching. Is there really going to be a Fed decrease in the interest rates? Well, the bond market's telling us yes, and it certainly today was saying yes, it is going to happen. The closer we get, it seems like that's going to happen. And then the question is 50 basis points or 25. And then the next question becomes, is that just the first of several? And my inclination would be to say, based on listening to the Fed chairman, Powell says, look, once we start, then it's a process, which is why we don't want to start until we're ready to do the process. So then, I'm going through a bunch of stuff today, looking at different, ideas of what's happening in the market, what's happening in terms of the economy. And somebody points out, and I've said this before on this channel, but I hadn't thought about it in a while. One of the best predictors of the economy is the market, right? You're crowdsourcing what the market thinks is going to happen in the next 6 months. So based on that, the market is up at all-time highs on Friday. So the market's telling us that not only are we not in a recession now, but we're not going to be for the next 6 months. So that's an important data point. And I think that that is something we need to look at. And yet on the other side of the coin, I saw another report that said that the day traders, the people that are trading all the time, when you ask them what percentage people should be in stocks right now, it is at an all-time high, like not been there, okay? It's like 97% of them are, at a certain percentage, and this is way out compared to normal, creating a massive risk-on situation at a time when at least half the signals are telling us that we're not in great shape. Wow. So much going on. It's a very, very, very different situation than I've ever remember seeing. And maybe I just haven't been as close to it, but very confusing. Lots of signals going all different directions. Makes it really, really hard to predict what is going to happen next. I continue to say 10% down at least on the Dow and on the S&P. That probably will be a 20% down on the NASDAQ. Or I think we could go further than that. I think we could go down 20, which would be 30, probably 30 down on the NASDAQ. That is where I think we're going to go. I do think we will bounce back from it, because then the market will be, by the end of the year, the market will be predicting that by March or April, full on, because that's what happens after elections. 90% of the time, the business cycle is good the year after we have an election. So anyway, where are the markets now? What are they telling us? Do we have a story to tell here? Okay, the Dow was up 38 today. The NASDAQ down 52, S&P down 8. As you can imagine, the percentages of those are very small. Tesla up $8.81. And in the after hours, Tesla is down 46 cents. The percentages are, whoops, I did that wrong. The percentages, as I said, very small, up 0.09 for the Dow, up down 0.3 on the NASDAQ, and down 0.16 for the S&P. The Magnificent Seven were mostly down, with the exception of Meta was up a bit. NVIDIA ended up down 1.66. You've got the Cathie Woods were mixed, although down toward the end of the day. Everybody was going down toward the end of the day, except for, well, Tesla went down a little. It had been up over 10 at one point. All right, let's go ahead and look at those bonds. Okay, what do we got here? We have got in the pre-market, we have got the 10-year down another 1.3 to 3.755. All right, this is now starting to be really interesting. The 2-year is down 2 full basis points. So that gives us right now, the 2-year is actually a half a basis point lower than the 10-year. Okay, so this is now, it all just changed. It's still a 3/10 of a basis point lower. So right now, so we didn't make it during the day trading, during the day, but now here in the pre-market for tomorrow, we are seeing the 2-year be less than the 10-year for the first time in a long time. We'll see if it stays under tomorrow. That's what we need to close in order to really say that we've done it. The 2-month also down 1.4. Now, I was reading something today that says it's actually the 3-month that the Fed cares about. I don't know if they know what they're talking about, but let me just say that the 3-month is also cattywampus, well over 5% at this time, 130 something basis points higher than the 10-year. All right, so let's go. Oil, of course, under lots of pressure the last couple of days, and it continues. It's like up 0.09%, up 6 cents to 69.26. So under 70 as it was this morning. Brent unchanged at 72.70. Whoa. Yeah, so that's I don't know. We'll see what happens. Natural gas unchanged, 2.145. You've got gold unchanged at 2,526, down about, what's that, about 30 from its all-time high, a very small percentage. Silver at 28.60 and copper at still over $4, 4.08. You've got the dollar down against the yen and up against the euro by very small amounts, down against the yen, 0.34. So that's it's worth talking about. All right. I'm sorry, Bitcoin up 102, but still sitting down at 58,099. Now for the equities, not much movement. Dow is down 37 or 0.09. The S&P down 4.50 or 0.08%, and the NASDAQ down 16.25 or 0.09. So all three about identical at about 0.08, more or less down, but not really anything that's telling us much about tomorrow morning, that with those small numbers. Okay, so that's really all I have for you today. I would like to encourage you to go watch that Scott Walter video. I really mean it. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, I mean, this new 1X video, 1X bot is very clever, very interesting, very different. Scott goes into all the details about its hands, about the new ways. I mean, this is a breakthrough bot. There's so many new things on this. I hadn't watched the video yet. I was so amazed about the things that they were doing with the actuators, the things they're doing with the motors. And this is stuff that I pointed out to Scott, this might mean with this much differentiation between the various bots, I see opportunities where Tesla might get into a buying mode, looking to buy up some of these companies, buy up some of the patents, buy up some of the individuals, bring them on board with Tesla. So really interesting show. If you want to watch that, there is the card right there. And other than that, join Patreon, and it has been great.